Okay, so let's talk about the circulatory system. Obviously, the main focus of this, and one of the most important organ is the heart. So you have heart tissue is very unique, right? It's a muscle. This heart is a muscle and it is beating your entire life. So it is working. So obviously it's a very strong, tough muscle. And you will see that when we do our heart dissection later this week. So you've got two sides of the heart and 4 different chambers. So the right side, and when we say right side, we mean your right side. So the right side, your right side, the heart pumps the deoxygenated blood, the blood that needs oxygen to the lungs. The left side, your left side, pumps the blood to the body. One of the blood's main functions is to deliver oxygen to the body. So that deoxygenated blood goes into the lungs to get oxygen. It comes back out and it's spread throughout the body. And that heart is beating, like I said, your entire life. So it is one strong muscle. Now, blood vessels. You've got your veins and your arteries and your capillaries. Those are the main three vessels. Excuse me. So it's pumping, and it's also pumping through these vessels. You've got your arteries is carrying blood away. Think artery away from the heart. The veins carry blood towards the heart, and the capillaries allow for that exchange between the blood and the tissue. So your capillaries are going to be your tinier, kind of at the end of your fingers and your toes. They're going to be those tinier blood vessels, and that's where kind of the blood then meets and then goes back to the heart. So these are going to be your extremities, your legs, your arms. So just as the arteries carry the blood away, the veins carry it back to the heart. So the blood can go to the lungs, get oxygen, and then back to the arteries. If you look, the arteries and the veins are, there's obviously a difference there. There's a different structure because they've got different things to do. The artery is got gravity on its side. It's got gravity to help it move the blood. Vein, on the other hand, doesn't. So the vein has to rely on that capillary action that we talked about with water, as well as muscular movements to help bring that blood back up to the heart. So here's the path of blood, okay? So you have your oxygen-rich blood is in red. Your oxygen-poor blood is in blue. Now, of course, I'm sure you've heard of this notion that your blood is actually blue in your body until it hits the air, and that's not quite true. So your oxygenated blood, the blood that's coming from your lungs, from your heart, is going to be a much richer red, and the blood in your veins might be a little bit like more of a pinkish red, but for the most part, your veins might be blue, but your blood itself is going to be red. So we call a pulmonary circuit and a systemic circuit. The pulmonary circuit is between heart and lungs. Pulmonary, that's what that means. Systemic is rest of the body. So like I said, you breathe in oxygen, it goes to your lungs. Those lungs take that oxygen, give it to the blood. The blood then goes through the heart, through the arteries, out. And then you have the blood that comes back up. It needs oxygen. It comes through the heart to the lungs and then again. So it's actually 2 circulation systems. You've got the circulation between the heart and lungs and the circulation between the heart and the rest of the body. So yeah, this is just kind of the path. It's really complicated, and it's really amazing that our heart is doing this constantly for us. So it takes about a minute for blood to go throughout your body. It happens about, your blood makes that circulation about 1,000 times a day. So yeah, you have that blood coming in. If you look at the left side of the diagram, you've got the blood coming in from the body and from the right ventricle into that first chamber. It's the blue chamber. It goes out to the lungs, and then it comes back in, and then it goes out to the body. So that's happening essentially in a minute. Every minute you've got a blood coming back in. That same blood that left comes back a minute later to get oxygen and then keep going. So here's just a little bit more information about the blood vessels. Just things I want you to know about this. Arteries away, veins are 2. And then you have that capillary where there's that exchange. So your veins are strong. Your veins are very strong. Your arteries are very strong. So you have that connective tissue, that smooth tissue, and then almost like that, a group of cells, almost like skin cells in the middle. Now, because it's going to the heart from the heart, you can see that epithelium is skinnier, and where you want, so it's kind of like it's got that force from the heart, so it's got a skinnier tube. When it's coming back up, we want a wider tube because there's not as much force pushing that blood back up to the heart. And then there's capillaries. So the walls of the capillaries, a couple things happen there. So you've got your blood pressure that pushes fluid into the interstitial fluid, which is fluid outside the veins. And then you also have carbon dioxide and other wastes from tissues into the capillary bloodstream. Okay, so it's a way for us to process wastes. It's a way for it's a way for carbon dioxide to get out and things like that. Remember, the capillaries are going to be at extremities. Okay, so those are going to be like, that's why our fingers, if we cut them, it's kind of like a really thick red. And then hopefully if you hold it down, that capillary will close up because it's a thinner blood vessel. So when you cut your finger, it's going to hurt. It's going to, like paper cuts. But it also heals quicker because there's very thin vessels. Okay, so it returns to the veins. And it does that through skeletal, and muscular contractions, right? So after exchanges between the blood and the body cells, the pressure has dropped. Just know that. Your blood pressure has dropped after it leaves, right? So blood has to move back through the heart because of the surrounding muscles and the one-way valves that prevent the backflow. So once it comes up through your veins, there's a valve there in your vein that prevents it from switching back down again. Fascinating. Okay, this one's a little awkward. So cardiovascular disease really quickly. So that's 40% of deaths in the U.S. are attributed to this disease. So we call this coronary heart disease. It's when you have a buildup of this plaque in the artery walls. Now, it looks like what happens is if you look at the upper right, it's not so much that plaque is in the artery as it is in the tissues. So that plaque, that little yellow gross plaque stuff, is developing inside the blood vessels, and it's pushing the blood vessels out, which is preventing blood and oxygen to get through the body. So plaque are these deposits that can stick to your artery wall and restrict the flow of blood through the arteries. And there's a really kind of cool picture up there at the left. So we also have blockage, and that can cause a heart attack. If one or more arteries or blood vessels become blocked, the heart muscle, the cells that feed that will die. There's no oxygen. Our cells need oxygen. So if those blood vessels are blocked, there's no oxygen, and what can happen is it'll basically, if you look down there where the blockage is, you can see that it will essentially kill the heart's muscle. Okay, and that heart muscle, it's constantly moving. You can never not have your heart moving, so it's very hard to repair. And when your heart does stop, and there's a point where oxygen does not get to your heart or your lungs, that can lead to permanent damage. Now, fortunately, there's been so much research and work done that people can have heart attacks, people can survive and live amazing lives, but it's not something you necessarily want to count on in terms of getting up and getting back, in terms of recovering from, right? You always want to be preventative as opposed to just wait till it happens and go from there. All right, guys, that's basically the end. These are the basics of the circulatory system. Next, we'll talk about the blood, and I'll talk more about the capillaries as well as the blood, how the blood travels back up through the heart, or through the body to the heart. Okay.